Hello, welcome to TrueHoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I am well, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And Henry Abbott, how are you, sir?
Good, man. Just FaceTiming my horses.
we're gonna get to FaceTiming horses in a minute.
It's the cutest thing in the NBA.
It is the best thing going in the NBA right now. FaceTiming horses. The NBA Finals, 3-1. Denver Nuggets lead. Game 5 will be tonight in Denver. Closeout chance, and we'll get to the particulars of the game and what happened in 4 and all that in a little bit. But I wanted to start with Nikola Jokic, who, you know, for people like us and diehards who Henry often says the NBA does not care about us because they already got us. We're watching all the games. We're doing the thing. So it doesn't really matter what we think. But Nikola Jokic, for the casual basketball fan, has been somewhat of a revelation these NBA Finals. We were out this weekend at our local wine bar, and, you know, when people, and you guys have all experienced this, when people know what you do for a living and it's around sports, they're like, oh, tell me about this thing. So they're coming in, try, Jokic, he's got, I'm like, yeah, I know. Been telling you about him for 3 years. He's really good at basketball. Now you're getting to see it up close. But how does he do all the things? I'm like, because he's fucking brilliant. That's how. And I've been
more about we unpack the wine bar thing for
the
a
wine
second.
bar, yeah, sure.
Like,
yeah.
Where are we doing? Where's this? Which wine bar is Jokic taking over?
His wine bar is on Columbus Avenue in New York City in 71st Street. A lovely place called Bin 71. All of our lovely friends work there, and we have a good time. And yeah, we have some guys who come in and want to talk sports. And yeah, Jokic, very, very heavy Jokic conversation.
That sounds
on
good.
Saturday.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I'm available.
Yes. When you...
I have a serious question about it.
Yeah.
What is the best wine pairing with Jokic conversation?
That's a good question. Well, so we were having a Provence rosé while we were discussing. It's very good to talk about Jokic.
Very summery.
Yes, summery, and it you know, when you talk about
it mixes well with the smoke in the atmosphere.
Well, luckily on Saturday, the air was clean. We had air quality was like 22, which is, considering we're at 100 and whatever we were, middle of the week, this was very nice.
I dare you to drink some Serbian wine with that conversation.
Maybe I should next time.
Maybe there's a good one. I don't know.
I don't suggest it.
David, no Serbian wine.
Winemaking in a civil war is not great. And it takes a long time to cultivate stuff. That war wasn't that long ago.
Are you saying that the grapes only have enough time to do what they got to do when there's bombs and things? Yeah. Got it. Makes sense. Yeah. All right.
Grapes of wrath.
We are already off the rails.
This is the worst show we've ever done.
Which means it's the best show. Which means it's the best show we've ever done. That's what that means.
Are you talking about Serbian wine 3 minutes in?
But yep. David, you said Provence wine summary, but that makes me think of when Jokic is playing. The music David plays in his head when Jokic got the ball, right? Everything's just sort of like,
it's a little bit faster in this postseason.
A little bit.
And he's been pushing pace more. Mm-hmm. In the half court, it's not as fast, but he plays at the perfect pace for him.
He is wonderful, and Henry and I have been having some conversations offline about Jokic, and he is doing things that is hard for an untrained eye. Has been a term that's been used a lot in these NBA Finals. Thank you, Eric Spoelstra. To the untrained eye, and for players who are used to seeing dominance in a certain way. And I was thinking, why is it so hard for former players turned analysts to just say, this dude is the best player in the NBA? Because by every measure you look at, your eyeballs, counting stats, and advanced stats, is this guy. That's what they all say. But for whatever reason, brains just can't fix our lips to spit the words out. Nikola Jokic, best player in the world. Henry, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's just like when Steph Curry was dominating in the finals. He just didn't do the things that the best players of yesteryear did. And the best players of yesteryear, therefore, would say it's an aberration or he's not causing the victory. Because, we were joking in our little meeting that, Shaquille O'Neal won by putting his nuts in Greg Ostertag's face, right? Like there was a certain kind of smash mouth, and obviously that's really difficult for Shaquille to do. He had to work out a certain way. He had to, get that kind of explosive and strong, and to him that was the recipe. And Nikola Jokic absolutely does not do that. He does different. He's the do music, and and he's so ponderous, and and so Shaquille, I think, rightly sees he's not he's incapable of a lot of the things that win you championships, right? That's what he sees because. And of course, the message here is that There's a million different ways to be the best player in basketball. And a lot of it, what works best, looks very different than the limited number of ways we used to explore, right? We used to just explore the really athletic ones, etc., right? The big ones, the tall guys, the crushing in your face attack. And now it's like, turns out you can win a basketball a lot of different ways. And Steph and Jokic are teaching that to us. And the lesson goes down a little hard.
Yeah. And David, you talked about this on our call this morning. Our eyes are used to seeing dominance in the sense of jumping really high, overpowering someone with physicality or quickness, right? That's easy. We get that. Oh, you're so much bigger and faster than everybody else and stronger. That's why you're so good. But with Jokic, he's also excellent, but it's done slightly differently.
Maybe not so slightly. He's significantly less athletic in terms of racing and jumping than pretty much any MVP center I think we've ever seen. Do you guys know the first year he was first team All-NBA?
2020, 21?
18, 19.
Oh, okay.
When I wrote about him in the summer of 19, suggesting that if he loses weight, he's an MVP candidate, it wasn't so smart. He had just been first team All-NBA as a fat kid, as a fat young man. I mean it, not kid. He was a young man. And he was already the best center in the league. It wasn't rocket science here. This is an athletic game. This is a movement game and fluidity and agility. Being leaner was only going to do positive things. He's been doing this for a long time. Nothing but first team or second team every year with him and Joel. So this is his second team. Second team. He was second team in 1920 also.
1920.
Yeah, 19-20. Yeah.
He's older than
right. This is why we have the metrics that we have and why they're so valuable to us. So we can't get caught up on bias. If we're biased towards evidence, not just towards observation.
We are TrueHoop biased towards evidence.
Yeah, that's the best.
Everybody else is biased towards that.
Curiosity is amazing. Right? Like if you look at him and just say, like, I'm literally confused about what he's doing half the time, right? But if you're just like, ooh, like, let's try to figure it out, right? Then you're gonna learn a ton of stuff. Whereas if you're like, that must be wrong, like, well, now you're not learning anymore, are you?
He made a play in this last game where the millisecond the ball was coming towards him and Aaron Gordon started making a move, he already knew he was going to throw the ball on a lob, not for a dunk, because he had calculated instantaneously that those that were in help position were all little guys. They were not going to be able to get him the ball to him. He made another play where he got a short roll against Murray was trapped. Jokic comes to the middle to be a pressure release guy, which isn't always what happens, but he did in this play. And he knew help was coming from the weak side corner, and he threw an awkward, like over his head, sideways pass. He's just got he could have caught it, moved, and thrown it, but that would have taken time. He was able to do it instantaneously. Those are very unique gifts to him. Just like Shaq, like we had never seen a Shaq before. We've never seen a Steph Curry before. We had never seen really a Jordan with that kind of athleticism and that kind of skill. Drexler was very athletic, but more right-hand dominant. These are the true unicorns of the game. He's just not just doing it with his body and his quickness. All those other guys were brilliant thinkers too, not 7-foot passers though.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
There are different themes, like as the plus minus, and not strictly plus minus. Not talking about the box score like one game. I'm talking about like EPM and all this stats.
Yeah.
As they come to the game, there are some themes to what the surprises are. And one of them is that this thing you're describing with Jokic is just reading the whole floor, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And like
instantaneously.
Draymond Green, Kyle Lowry, and Jokic are the three players who have blown our minds with being like up in the top 3 in the league, even though nobody thought they were, right?
And negative on the athlete scale, right? You're like, how do you do that? Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
This is the super skill. There's not the only one, but defense generally and reading everything is like one of the ways that you impact winning way more than we thought.
And Jokic has been really good in defense in this series.
I was just going to
especially as the series has evolved.
So, one of the things that was a flashpoint this year for the argument about why he should have won his third MVP or what have you is that like it just doesn't impact the game defensively. And I'm like, well, guys, that's not what the defensive metrics say. Like, yeah, he's not Jaren Jackson Jr. in terms of block shots and leaping off the ground. Nope, none of that. None of that's there. But what he is 7 feet tall, 285 pounds. And according to our good friend Marcus Elliott, he is an excellent kinematic mover, right? So that frame can move itself from left to right in front of the basket. You know what's hard to do? Scoring over a 285-pound man who's at the basket. Really, really hard to do.
Ask Jimmy Butler.
Right, ask Jimmy Butler. Real hard to do that.
All the Heat guys have struggled in the first box against him.
And
Jimmy especially. But
he's doing things on defense that aren't showing up in the box stats. For instance, I thought it was 10 million. David said it was only 3. He had 3 kickballs.
No, maybe 4.
I think it's 4.
He had 4 kickballs in the last game. You're like, okay, what does that matter? The clock just resets to 14. I go, yeah. Well, the play they were just going to run was going to get a backdoor layup and an easy score. Now they can't run that play because they don't have enough time to start from where they were to get that play off.
And he got a steal when Kyle Lowry was going to throw a pocket pass, and Jokic did his little left foot kick save, and Lowry adjusted the pass and lost the ball, and it bounced really funny. It wasn't a kick. It looked like a kick, but the ball was never kicked. It was just an awkward pass because he lost it. Jokic just picked it up, all from how many kick saves he had.
Well, like, Bam had the ball a ton, guarded by Jokic in the middle of the floor in game 2 and distributed the ball everywhere, and the Heat won, right? That's what Jokic is stopping with all the it's not just kicks, right? He's like got all of his limbs.
He had 3 steals in the game.
Oh, yeah. And 2 blocks.
None of them came off a kick save and 2 blocks. Yeah.
No, he's incredible. David, you mentioned something about reading the game. So again, and we talked about Shaq and all these guys, they can process and all that, but the game is so different now and it's so spaced out. So his ability to process the full floor seems like a heavier burden for someone to have, right? Because in the 90s, the game was played within a small place. You got guy in the pose, everybody's all crunched around. Like now I got 50 dudes cutting all over the place. I got more
show me the tape where Shaq is closing out a 3-point shooter.
Yeah, not happening.
I'm not saying that hasn't. Show me. I want to see it. Jokic has to. Jokic, listen, it's been fortunate for them that the way Miami plays matches up perfectly with what he's best at and then also what he's not so good at. Having to play a 5-out system could be a problem for him. Would be potentially.
Well, we saw it right against the Warriors last year in the playoffs. That's a difficult thing for him to do.
Right. This is not that. That being said, you don't apologize for your opponent. Your job is to win games. He's an all-time great, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love it. So we're going to go there. One of my favorite stats. Oh, Henry, you had something. No, you got nothing?
Changed my mind.
One of my favorite stats is win shares per 48. Basketball References, right? Metric on how you impact winning a basketball game. 0.100 is league average. Nikola Jokic for the last 3 years has been basically 3 times league average in win shares per 48, which is
so
ridiculous. He is already top 5 in career win shares per 48. That is astounding. Guys in front of him, MJ, David Robinson, Wilt. Those are the dudes ahead of him per 48 minutes that impact winning more. This guy is just incredible. And you said already an all-time great. And I started looking, which he is, right? 2 MVPs, should have been a third. Likely going to be his first title and his first finals MVP. The list of players who have won 2 regular season MVPs and a finals MVP is 10. In the history of the NBA, 10 guys have done it. Jokic is about to be the 11th. I did just a quick look at Shaq and Hakeem Olajuwon, their 3-year peaks versus Jokic's last 3 years. His next 3 could be his peak. I don't know, but all I have are his last 3. So that's all I had to go on. He happened to win 2 MVPs out of those and finish second in the 3rd year. Jokic compares very favorably to those guys in counting stats and in advanced stats. It's like, oh, he's really that dude. It is incredible what this guy does. And I just think, again, like we said to start the show, as Henry pointed, you got to be curious about it. And it's just, you don't even know what you're looking at half the time, but it's amazing what it is.
And he's probably going to age well. I mean, he's 28 and he doesn't jump, right? So, I grew up watching Arvydas Sabonis, who came to the NBA well after his peak,
Mhm.
right? And he played a lot like this. And we didn't have advanced stats then. I don't know how effective Sabonis was, but he shot threes and he mucked things up in the middle, and he was huge.
Mhm.
And I feel like in 6, 7, 8 years, can Jokic still be doing that at a higher level than Sabonis ever did? Like, unless something really unlucky happens.
Friday night, I had a dinner meeting with a gentleman who looks like Darvin Ham's dad. It's very, very.
Story to start like that.
I mean, when I first met him, I have a thing with faces, they stick in my brain, and it really bothered me. Like, I know this guy, but there's no reason for me to know him. He had lived in San Diego for many years, whatever, and then it hit me like, oh my God, he's just an aged Darvin Ham. It's crazy brilliant guy. He played against Sabonis in the Soviet Union.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's older. He's in his 60s, and he played for Athletes in Action after his college career, and they had some games scheduled in the Soviet Union. And so he was saying, watching Jokic now, it just took me back. Like, that's what Arvidas looked like.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember
Super cool.
Arvidas, obviously, when he came to the Blazers, and Henry would know because he's a Blazers fan, but that was late in his career. Right? He's already in his 30s. But he would do a lot of those same things, holding the ball out here and just doing this thing, and everybody's like, what's going on?
Brain.
Right?
Just
He's processing what's happening, who's cutting, who's going where.
It was really fun to watch. I mean, it's just fun. Like, that dude who looks like he's, just running away from the play. Like, suddenly,
Did you guys see, there was a play in the game pretty early where they doubled Murray, and Jokic was on the right wing, and he wanted Gordon to come middle, and Gordon didn't come middle. And Jokic started coaching him, and Gordon reacted poorly. So because Jokic was far away. So it was a dead ball out of bounds. Jokic came over to him. It wasn't a timeout, just a dead ball, and explained what he wanted. And there's a lot of value to that, guys. The coach on the court, at first he was animated, but I think he quickly realized Aaron's not taking this great. Let me just walk over to him.
One of my favorite
emotions
things
out of the equation
that I mentioned about Jokic is, and it's a cross-sport analogy, when you hear about quarterbacks throwing guys open, Jokic will do that.
For sure.
When he points,
and does it all the time.
And they're like, why do you want me to cut here? Just go where I'm telling you. Trust me.
Or he'll just throw it to where it's open.
Right. And it's like, oh my God, you were right. Yeah. I'm telling you. I know.
I'll have to say this to you guys. In my son's last year of school, he was playing up with post-grad players. He was a high school senior. And one of his teammates, who's a European kid, came up to screen like around the top of the key. And there was no one between him and the basket. There were two guys up on Max. And you could see Max was 17 years old. He wanted the kid just to go to the rim. Like, no one's there. I don't need the screen. You're the one that's open. So he kind of lobbed it. There were tall guys over him. He kind of lobbed it towards the rim. And his guy's name is Luca. He's playing in college now in Mississippi. Alabama. He kind of sees the ball floating over his head. He realized, oh, that passes to me. He goes and gets it, dunks it. It was hysterical. But I remember saying to the other coaches, I was watching, like, that's what the great passers do, is they lead you right to buckets.
I saw years
LeBron
ago.
LeBron has done a million of those.
In like peak Steve Nash time, I went to a game in Portland and sat with John Hollinger. And there was this play. I'm telling you, everyone in the gym was like, huh? But like Steve Nash is kind of at the top of the paint. Like he's like drifting a little right, and he throws a baseball pass, kind of drifting, lofting, one-armed pass to the far left corner where there is no one. And I forget who, but whoever was playing small forward at the time for the Suns, like kind of like takes a couple of steps left and like catches it completely alone and drains a corner three. And John just kind of like, might be a long time before we understand how brilliant that pass was. It's just like, it's awesome. Yeah.
It's kind of one of these axioms in sports. Go where the people aren't. Right? Like where nobody is, that's where you should go.
Yeah. Pop always says, play away from the crowd.
Right?
It's also, I think, really important to talk about, and I know we'll get to it at some point. We can bring it up now just briefly on this same subject. Their biggest win of the postseason, they've had a few big wins, obviously, to go 3-1 and sweep Miami on the road and have it be the role players starring. That narrative works. This is when your best player is that guy, you can't be surprised. It wasn't, you don't need the role players when they can't solve Murray Jokic. But as Miami just kept more and more resources towards Murray Jokic, other guys have ample opportunities. And also, it's important to say, I believe they had 26 assists in the game, 6 turnovers.
Incredible.
I watched it today. That's what I was watching this morning. The extra passes, guys, Denver threw. You can credit the coach. I credit the players as much, if not more, probably more. Yeah. Jokic is a big part of it. Jamal Murray having 4 straight games of 10 assists. Extraordinary.
12 assists,
10 or more
turnovers in game 4.
Right. That's not who he's been. Mm-hmm. There is when your best player, it's like in Milwaukee, you can't not compete your ass off when Giannis is your teammate. Mm-hmm. He's the best player in the world for a time, and no one outfought him. In Denver, you can't be selfish too often when that guy's your best player because he's so selfless.
He raises the collective IQ of the team, and they all share the ball and pass it, right? It's always, we always hear the people say, give up good shots to get great. Like, and sometimes it's just lip service. People just say it, but no, they actually do it and believe it, right? And if you're going to double or trap Murray on the pick and roll, they're going to play 4-on-3 behind. Somebody's open somewhere, and those guys all know to flash to the open spot. Because even if it's not Jokic, my teammate will pass me the ball and I will score a layup. And that makes me now, if I'm touching the ball, I'm going to try hard on defense. I'm going to dive on the ground. I'm going to give effort. But if I'm not touching the ball because I got an ISO guy on my team, well, why should I set a screen for you? Why should I work hard for you?
Is this where we're going to talk about Denver's offense?
Not yet. We will. We'll get to that in a minute.
I'll hold on my thoughts.
Henry, I wanted to talk about Jokic from a packaging perspective. I think
packaging. You better get a big package. You know what I'm saying?
Tall dude.
Yeah.
Guys. It's good. At least 7 feet tall. What does he weigh? 268 he's listed?
He's like 280. He can't be maybe it's 260. I don't know.
268, I thought you said.
I think it's at 280. 7 foot 280, I think is what I said. But whatever. 280. Who cares? 270. It doesn't matter. It's mountain of a man. And strong. And big mitts. He just the other reason why I think people are having a tough time, Henry, is that he just doesn't look right. All right, the packaging is not right.
His running is funny.
He runs funny. He's also a red-nosed white dude from somewhere Serbia. That's Henry. My basketball mind tells me the greatest player in the world never looks like that. That's never the dude.
He's the bizarro Julius Erving. Cool, suave, styling.
He FaceTimes horses. He's not the dude, Henry.
Just a little more Borat than you wanted.
Yeah.
Guys, I did a little homework since we've been on the call, and the Serbian wine scene has been on the rise for the past decade, and what we are witnessing is quite incredible. That's a sommelier in the Michelin Guide.
Look out, David. We got to get some Serbian wine.
Yeah, turns out.
I'm suspect is all I'm saying.
Yeah, there's just I do think we have a picture in our head of what we want, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and and it's a stupid part of our brain where we're just like, what's the vision, right? And I'm not even kidding you. Like, for me, the basketball player look is Jason Tatum. Like, when he walks out, I'm like, oh, that guy can fucking ball, right? Like
6'10" or whatever long.
I get that feeling every time he walks out. I'm like, that's the guy when you're like at the pickup game at the Y and the other team comes out. You're like, oh, we're gonna lose, right? Look like Jason. To me, that's just the way my brain works. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's a little prejudice I have, right? Yeah, Jokic comes out. I'm like, I don't know. You know, like maybe he's from the wrong sport, right? Like, yeah. But it's just our job to just not let that little image dictate, right?
That terrible part of our brain tell us.
Well, that what you just said, Henry, I didn't know you were going to say it that way, that last part. When people have asked me how I've been pretty good at projecting talent, it's what you just said. I don't have that.
Right.
I can't speak for other sports, but I'm just too stupid to have those biases. I'm looking at production.
Yeah.
How are you impacting? I don't care what you look like. I've seen it all. I'm an old man.
He can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's really, I think, one of his best gifts.
He solves problems.
Yeah. He's at 7 feet tall. We literally said this. He's unsolvable. I wrote this in the preview. He's unsolvable.
He is.
You think you can, but he's too gifted at passing to really fuck him up. Now his teammates can screw up.
Right.
But that's what you have to force. And that's what Miami hopes to force in game 4.
I mean, there are hoops all over the world, and there are kids shooting at those hoops, and sometimes they have parents or uncles or loved ones or coaches who are telling them, hey, if you want to be good, you have to, and then they say a bunch of stuff. It's going to be about jumping. It's going to be about scoring a lot. It's going to be about physical dominance. It's going to be about speed and cutting and all these things that he just doesn't do, right? Like, nobody says, kid, you got to stand stiller. You got to tip a rebound to the cutter. And like, this is like, this is not anybody. Like, we're all emotionally
Don't
invested
say-
in the
don't
other
say-
person.
Yeah, don't say nobody.
Oh well, David Thorpe probably says it, but
No,
A
not
socially
just-
insignificant number of global humans. Like,
yeah, not
Like
just David Thorpe. Good coaches are like, the way you
But
said,
it just
tipping
doesn't
it.
matter. My point is like,
Yeah,
everyone
obviously.
at Jarrod's wine bar, like
Right.
they're invalidated. They
Yeah.
are themselves invalidated
Mhm.
by this working in basketball, right? Because they've told
Yeah.
people other things would work, right? So like people don't like to be invalidated.
And they told people only other things would work.
yes,
Yeah.
only
You
this way
have
works.
to do all these. You're
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Of course, you're exactly right.
One of the things.
Did you see the video of him walking his daughter off the court?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would love it,
He-
Henry. I mean, she
they're-
looks like 2 years old, 3 years old.
Yeah, she's very young.
He's just this
7'1".
tall. He's in a suit. He looks great in his suit.
So
He's just
he's
this tall, thin guy now.
One of the things about Jokic that, and Chris Mannix went on like Dan Patrick's show and said, or Rich Eisen, excuse me, and was like, oh, the Nuggets are just hard to sell publicly. They're not interesting, blah, blah, all this stuff. And, we're always like, if you want to talk.
Are the ratings bad?
I don't know, but
No, they're pretty good.
I'm sure they're good. Because they're, if you want to talk about drama and who's going to get which coach fired, they're not going to be fun for that, right? Like, that's not what they do. Or their star being on social media, calling out. If that's what you want to report on, yes, this team is boring and they will have nothing for you.
You mean there's no women apparently who have been in pornographic movies tweeting about their players?
Well, we can talk.
I've not seen that,
We
but I've
can
heard.
talk about that player if you want.
I've heard. I did not know until the other day. Someone told me about it. Holy cow.
It is not looking good for that man right now.
Jeez.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
But Katie had a great tweet where she deleted it. He goes, and it was because someone had said, the hard thing is like trying to make Jokic a star. And Katie quoted it and said, I don't think Jokic wants or cares to be a star. Go to work, go home, FaceTime his horses, and hop in the pool. And we're like, that's a pretty good life, right? I'm going to kick ass in basketball, get on the phone, FaceTime my horses in Serbia, hop in the pool, play with my daughter. That's a pretty good life.
I mean, Giannis is a bit like that too, right? I don't think he's FaceTiming animals, but like, lately, I guess he's put a little more time into just being a star. But like mostly, he's just like, let me go to the gym. Let me go.
Giannis is doing more commercials, and he's definitely out there a bit more now. Like but Jokic, I don't think we'll ever see him doing that. That's just not.
Well, is he doing commercials in Serbia?
Even if he is, I think I saw one with like a beer. It's not like it's not like how it looks here, right? It's not this whole pomp and circumstance and pageantry and not the same thing.
I thought Curry did a great job of managing his fame.
I mean, he's a celebrity though, David. He's everywhere. He's in tons of commercials telling us about crypto and why he's not an expert and you should invest.
but not when he was the best player in the world. I don't remember doing as much.
I do think it happens a little bit. There's like a cash in phase once you're a little bit over the top of the hill.
Right? Yeah.
We gotta
well,
get
you
that
also,
Steph Curry magic.
Tom Brady's in it right now. Sure.
Honestly, who is?
Tom Brady.
Yeah. Also, there's a bandwidth thing. Like, you only have so much time. Players do a great job normally of recognizing I can't do all of that and be the best player I can be. Yeah. And raise a family, whatever else you have. So as you get older, you handle that better. And also your responsibilities are different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just, Jokic is phenomenal. I'm so glad that like people who tune in just for the playoffs and finals are getting to see this guy and they're seeing a different way to be like, wow, you can, as Henry texted me, he's like, the way you sell this to your dad and your mom is, look, you can be the best player in the world at basketball without jumping. Look how amazing this is. And it's pretty cool. You can dominate basketball without being a super high leaper. It's awesome.
Yeah. You have 2 fake knees. You can move like this man.
I love it. All right, let's get to on the court. Defensively, look, the Nuggets offense, we'll get to that in a minute, is outstanding. But they're doing some things defensively to limit the Miami Heat. What are you seeing from a coach's perspective from the Denver Nuggets outside of game 2, which they definitely, and they all admit it, they were shitty on their coverage. They were just lackadaisical.
They weren't great in game 1 either.
But they scored so much in game 1, it didn't matter.
Yeah, right.
But they've been much sharper since then. What are you seeing as a coach defensively from the Nuggets?
Yeah, they're committed to staying connected just when they're chasing guys over screens. There have been a couple of times where even Michael Porter Jr. has recognized, hey, I can go affect a shot. Clearly, someone's going to shoot it. I'm going to come in from behind and swipe away.
Did you say even?
That wasn't.
Why did you say even?
Listen, because we know. Because he's listen. We know. You don't have to say it. We know.
He tends to watch a lot. Very handsy at the point of attack. not just the goalie kicks for Jokic, but getting their hands. They had 11 steals in the last game, 8 by the starters. And keeping the offensive glass pretty clean, defensive backboards. There's a feistiness to them. There are lots of swipe downs that are accurate. There a lot of good individual defense. Close out, guard the drive after the closeout. Stay connected to my guy. Knock it off his leg, or just force a tough shot. Taking away anything easy for Butler, which could also be because Butler's not feeling great. We don't know. But apologize for that. They did their job. Really just making things tough for Miami inside, closing them out well on the perimeter, forcing them to take shots pretty quickly to get the three cleanly. And that causes problems sometimes when your pace is sped up a little bit as a shooter. Not fouling too much. Sometimes they foul too much, but not hasn't been so bad. All that adds up. And also only having 6 turnovers last game means huge. Miami can't really get out and go off a turnover.
I saw the stat that was interesting. Through 19 postseason games, the Nuggets have allowed 111.9 points per 100 non-garbage time possessions, according to Cleaning the Glass. And that mark is 3 points better than their regular season rate throughout the season. So they're like, and when we always talk about the playoffs being small sample size, right? 7 games is small sample size by any depth. That's just what it is. So when you can have a run like that, and 19 is a little bit larger, but when you're playing well and you're doing things better than your regular season mark, that's the way you win championships, right? That's the way Miami, besides playing awesome defense and all that stuff, was here in the NBA Finals. They shot 34% through 82 games from 3 in the regular season. They were hovering near 40% for most of the playoffs from 3. Well, that's how you upset the Celtics and the Bucks, right? By being way better. Now, in this series, that 3-point shooting has come back down to earth a bit. Game 2, when they won, they were at 40. Every other game, 34, 32, 31. They're kind of regressing to the mean there. And I just think, if they're going to win, that excellent shooting has to come back from 3, and they have to force the Nuggets to play poorly on the other end, which Nuggets are capable of playing poorly. But I just think what you said, David, Jokic he's the problem solver. Like, I just think that he solves whatever they're going to throw at him. It's like, no, I'll calm the guys down and we'll get into whatever it is we want to run.
And Murray's done great with 0 turnovers the last game, obviously, and had some big scoring games too. There's a size advantage
so
that
bigger.
Denver's really exploited, and that's to their credit. Strategically, they've been smart about that. Denver's just outplaying them. They're unquestionably the better. This version of Miami is not as good.
Yeah,
Jimmy Butler had to be terrific for them to have a chance, and he's not been terrific.
Yeah,
and let's remember this too. We talked about this on our call this morning, but last week, that I thought Miami's advantage in terms of intensity would be mitigated in Game 1 because of Game 7 in Boston, and then flying overnight, landing at 5 a.m. in Denver. They didn't really have it. They brought it in Game 2. Denver didn't adjust. Denver made the adjustment Games 3 and 4. They're bringing the same kind of fight, and they shouldn't go backwards. They might, which is why Miami has a chance. They might go backwards. You for the sake of Denver fans, I hope they don't. And if Miami plays great, we could have still have a really good game.
So, something I thought interesting about the Denver Nuggets as they're going on this postseason run, the history of the NBA has told us that teams that break through have to bump their head up against the wall a number of times, right? The Pistons finally won when they were finally able to slay the Celtics dragon and finally get to the finals and beat the Lakers, right? That's kind of how historically it's always happened. The Nuggets have gone through the fire, right? This is a team that 3 years ago was in the conference finals, right? They lose. Remember in that run, they were down 3-1 in 2 of their series and came back to win.
Right.
Win
Utah and
games.
the Clippers. Right, Utah and the Clippers, yeah.
Without Murray in postseason for 2 straight years. So still, because they got Jokic, we're great in regular season, but we get punked in the postseason because we're just not deep enough as a team. No Michael Porter Jr. last year, right? Same thing happened. So this team has gone through its warts and its welts, right? But its core guys have experienced heartache and all the things that we talk about that matter to building a team and moving forward. And that's what we're seeing. And in this run, we talked about it on our call, and David so rightly pointed out, they have not been blown out once this entire postseason. 7 points was the biggest loss that they suffered this postseason, which is
they've
incredible.
been the best team.
Yeah, for sure. Offensively, David, all right. Look, I know the Jokic Murray pick and roll, when you invert it, all that stuff's hard. I get all that. But it's got to be more than just that makes the Nuggets offense so hard to stop.
Well, I'm going to first give you guys a little quiz that's interesting. Yeah. I think there's a 50-50 chance to get it right. It won't be easy.
Rule against that.
We got rid of that rule when you took your sabbatical for a year.
I was not aware.
Writing the most important book maybe any of us will ever read. We changed the rule. All right, you ready?
Okay.
If you don't get it, it's not the easiest way I'm going to phrase it, but I really think you might get it. So you guys tell me what you think this stat is. Ready? Golden State, 43-42. Boston, 45-40. Denver, 33-25.
3-point shooting percentage.
No.
I don't know.
No, but you're almost right. No, you're almost right. Well, yeah. 3-point attempts.
Oh, okay.
In the regular season and then in the postseason and for Denver in this series.
Mm-hmm.
So let's rephrase it. Golden State shot 43 threes a game in the regular season, 42 in their series. Boston, 45 regular season, 40 in the playoffs, which, it's lower.
Mm-hmm.
Denver shot 33 regular season, 25 in this series, 30 in the playoffs. They are mashing the Heat with size.
Mauling them.
Right. So what does that mean? It means we talked about Jokic as a problem solver. You, Jarod, led us right to this. They're cutting, trusting someone's going to throw me the ball. MPJ is cutting. He's flaring and then cutting. He did that one time. He got a great flare screen and then just cut to the rim. And I think Gordon found him. It's a strategy. And I have not confirmed this. It's just 25 threes a game. Miami's a good defensive team, but come on. This is a team saying they can't stop us in the paint. 6'10", 7 foot with a lights out shooting guard, right?
Lights out.
Who can pass. We are going to maul them inside. And that's the best shot you can get is a dunk or a layup over people, not too contested. And so that's a big part of what's happening here is Miami can't solve that problem. If they solve the Jokic-Murray a two-man game, the Nuggets are not just shooting threes and letting that variance potentially hurt them. Attack, attack, attack. And it's like punching them in the mouth over and over again.
So we talked about this, how brilliantly Jokic reads the game, which of course he does. So does Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray also reads the game at an extremely high level. And again, in any sport with a ball, the goal is how do we create unsettled situations heading towards the goal, right? 4-on-3, whatever it is that we have an advantage where they're like, oh shit, who are we supposed to cover here? That's what you want. And so whenever you're going to trap, double hedge, whatever, they get off the ball quickly, and guys don't just get off the ball. As David mentioned earlier, flare to the middle. Somebody cuts to they go where there's no one, and then they're going to get the ball, and I'm going to get an easy score. And that's got to wear on you after a while.
Yeah, I want to say one thing, and then Henry needs to speak because he's making some faces. The Nuggets aren't just coming to the middle. They're also running a guy to the dunk spot at the same time. Like there was a play the other day where the Heat trapped. Here comes Jokic to the middle. Here comes Gordon from the opposite corner to the short corner, the dunk spot, and he got a lob dunk. But because everyone's thinking Jokic. That is a strategy, guys. That is a coach telling his team, keep attacking the rim with or without the ball. Put pressure on them at the rim. Now, we'll see what Miami does this game. If they really condense in and force the Nuggets beat them from the cheap seats, they might and blow them out. Or they may be missing a lot. We could have a good game. But they can't stop them in the paint right now.
No.
Henry? We lose Henry?
I think he's got some serious internet issues right now. Like, he is definitely on some,
It's I'm. This is a first for me. Like, Jarod, I can see and hear you perfectly.
You can't see or hear David?
David's just completely gone. When he's talking, it's absolute silence. And there's no visual of him either.
That is so bizarre. What the heck is happening?
What a lost opportunity for me to say some things.
From the scene.
Yeah. Henry, why don't you go ahead and
say goodbye
and leave and then come back and hopefully this will be okay.
Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. But no, David. So tonight the Nuggets are 9-point favorites according to Las Vegas.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I mean, and the money's gonna start heading towards Miami, so it'll start coming down a bit. It probably already is down to 8. Look, as you said, I would not be surprised if the Heat win tonight. But I just think that the Nuggets, I think they sense the moment. They know it. They're ready. They know they're the better team.
Yeah, they've just got to perform.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to perform. They've disappointed us before.
They have.
They've been lights out on the road
Not
lately.
this postseason. They haven't though. They've been good this postseason.
No, game 2 was a disappointment, but you're allowed to slip up. They didn't let it build. It was one game only. Same thing in Phoenix. They lost their 2 games on the road, tough.
Mm-hmm.
Took care of game 5. Took care of game 6 on the road. It's been good. They've not had 2 bad games, especially, which I think is really important. They played fine in Phoenix. Phoenix just played better.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a team playing their best basketball, playing their best defense that I've ever seen them play in game 4. Jokic especially.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown,
So good.
Aaron Gordon, KCP defensively, Jamal Murray, they're really locked in. And I'm sure they sense the moment. Now they got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they should know, right? They saw Miami go up 3-0 and have to go to game 7. They themselves have been down 3-1 and come back. So they know it's all possible, right? So all those things have to know, look, if we play at our best, we know we're better than them. So that's what I think they have to. If we know we do what we're supposed to do, play our best, we should win this game. And I think if they come out with that right mindset and attitude, they'll be fine. But we'll see what happens later on tonight. Henry's back. I think his internet's working. How's it sounding over
Feeling
there?
strong. Yeah, we're good.
You could hear everything I said?
Now I can. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Jarod, I want to be clear.
There.
Yeah.
I want to be clear on one thing.
Yeah.
That is the mindset needs to be one possession at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. We have got as soon as you start thinking about that confetti, we're
Over.
fucked. Against this team especially. It doesn't mean you'll lose. It just means you're gonna mess up. Like we have got to understand bad things are gonna happen. Someone's gonna get foul trouble, someone's gonna turn an ankle. Something's gonna happen. They're gonna go on a 15-0 run. That's what the expectation has to be. In golf, I learned you always expect your opponent to make the putt. Because if you don't expect it and he does, it can jar you. Always, he's in the sand eyes and fucking hit that ball in. You just always expect it. That's exactly what has to be tonight for Denver. It's hard to close teams out.
There is.
Every year someone does it. And they've done it now 3 series in a row by just focused on right now. We're the better team. Let's outplay them. Let's just fucking outplay them on this possession, every possession. That's the preaching that Mike Malone is doing. And then he's got to match. We haven't talked about this yet. He didn't take Jokic. He took him out and left him out when he got 5 fouls. And the announcers were freaking out about it a little bit. So he's got to do the same thing. Don't panic. If you lose this game, you're still likely to win the series. We all know how good you can be on the road, home for game 7. Don't panic. Just play it out one possession at a time.
Yeah, I think Malone's got the right tenor for them. I think their leaders, Jokic and Murray, have the right tenor for them. You know, of course, as we said, they have to still execute, but I think they have the right people in place to lead them properly. And we'll see what happens on the other end. But should be a good one tonight. At the end of last week, right over the weekend, we had a piece come out from Henry and David about potential trade scenarios for one Damian Lillard of the Portland Trailblazers. And it was stemmed around this idea that things are changing, right, around the NBA. We have a new collective bargaining agreement. The salary cap is going to be up this year. So just some quick things for people to be aware of. The salary cap for next season is $134 million. That's the max. The luxury tax threshold is $162 million. And what they have now as part of the new CBA is a tax apron, or 2 tax aprons. The first one is $169 million, and the second one, known as the super tax, is $179.5 million. And as of today, right now, 18 of the league's 30 teams are above the super tax apron. Now, don't freak out, because all that means is they run out some rights here and there, and you'll find a bunch of teams back underneath, right? But what it does mean is it's harder and harder for you as a team, if you are at that second apron, to keep that team together, because you're penalized from how you can make trades. Your exceptions are taken away, and you're not allowed to trade future draft picks 7 years out. Like, teams go, okay, we'll give you a 2030 first round. No, you can't do that anymore, right? They're taking away all those advantages for you to build your team later on down the line for now, for the sake of getting back super talent in. So what we're thinking is there's going to be some names on the move likely this summer, just people who might have to, be traded away because this team doesn't want to pay ridiculous tax. And right now, Joe Lacob and the Golden State Warriors, oh my goodness, they are deep, deep, deep into that second tax apron. So there's going to have to be some things going on. But Henry, I know this is a topic near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, well, there's so you're right. This new thing, who doesn't love the term super tax apron, right? Like that's new. What's not new is that the way you can make the most money in the NBA is by being old.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of like, it's weird that they made this. Like LeBron and Chris Paul became very influential in the union, and they changed the nature of the pay structure in a way that like let them collect on the back half of their careers, right? They were in the middle of their careers when they got influential, and then they made it so they and people in their class can get tons of money, which is creating this new thing that we've discussed a lot with bonus wins, right? Where basically, most of our lives, max players were the best value players. And it's hitting us now that like, wow, some of those people with max deals are bad value, which is kind of a new thing because they're old. The other thing that's happening is advanced stats are showing us that, age is really a burden. Like we get a little brainwashed because the very most successful players who we see in our TVs the most, like LeBron, are the absolute, like they defy the age curve. But a typical NBA player doesn't even play meaningfully in his 30s at all, right? Like age hits very, very hard in this sport. And a few survivors can cling on, and Steph Curry and, Kevin Durant are giving us a very warped view. But like, if you're going to project, I have all these names in front of me, but if you're going to project like Jimmy Butler's 33 and he's signed through 25, 26, right? Like if you're going to project how good is he going to be? It's like, well, do you want to compare him to the most unlikely example of all time in LeBron?
Right.
Or do you want to compare him to every other forward in the history of the league, in which case he's already on borrowed time, right? Like, so this all coalesces into, like Lillard is one of many, but Lillard's going to make $58 million in 2025 to 26 and $63 million when he's 36 years old.
And what's the projected cap then? Ballpark it, Henry. I didn't mean this.
I have no idea.
No, you have some idea. What's the cap?
Well,
this next year,
cap's 134
next year is 134. So like,
what's the luxury tax apron?
162.
160 something.
162 for your first luxury tax. So
yeah,
I mean, he's going to be like a third of your allowance.
That's
for
what
all
I was trying to get at,
right?
Yeah,
and like and actually, I think there's rules about the percentage. I don't think it can be a third. I think it gets a little bit adjusted so that it's not more than, I want to say 30%, 25%, something like that. But anyway, the point is, like, if your star is making that kind of money and is old, you're going to be competing against teams who, like, meanwhile, if you look up and down like the best players in the league, Jason Tatum's 25, Tyrese Halliburton's 23, Don Mitchell's 26, Triple J is 23, Darius Garland's 23, Devin Booker's 26, Ja's 23, Jared Allen's 25, De'Aaron Fox is 25, and Edwards is 21. Tyrese Maxey is 22, Walker Kessler is 21, Bam is 25, Jaden McDaniels is 22, Scotty Barnes is 21. None of those players are anywhere near the top salaries in the league. To me, it's like, you're going to want to be on the younger end of this. Like, you just are. Like, you have to be winning championships and doing Joe Lacob style, like paying tax through the nose to have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson at these prices, right? It's very, very, very expensive, and it's going to start becoming effectively a hard cap where you're just constrained in every which way. So to me, like this, it isn't so much about like how good is Lillard. It's just, can you possibly keep the salary on your books in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Well, we did a thing here at TrueHoop. You did with Stephen Alardi, a stat we call bonus wins, right? And what made Memphis so good last year was that they led the league in bonus wins, right? And that's because Ja's contract we didn't even sign yet, and Jaron's didn't kick in yet, right? And Desmond Bane hasn't been signed yet, right? And so all these young players under 24 were awesome, right? Top whatever's in EPM, because they were getting paid rookie salary deals. And they won 50 odd some games, right? As you start getting paid your rookie max and all these things, that's when you're looking like, but even the rookie max, right? Because you're at probably 30 mil or whatever that number is. If you're a young guy who's really excellent, like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or one of these players, you're still going to be performing above the value of your contract, which is what you want if you're an owner. Like, now look, as you know, here on TrueHoop, we don't really care about owners. Billionaires are mostly bad people. So I don't care if you're like, saving money on contract, because that doesn't affect how I sleep at night. But that's how your team performs well, is when you have a bunch of players underperforming what they should be paid. But the NBA works that guys get paid late in their career for past performances, right? So Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, LeBron, all these guys, still great, by the way, still top 10 in the league in EPM, but they are the outliers, as Henry mentioned, right? Like, and they're going to get hurt every year, right? And miss 15, 20 odd some games for the various reasons that they do. So yeah, Jimmy Butler and these older guys, you don't want to be in the business of having a roster full of 33 plus guys who are making half, 3/4 of your cap, right? Because unless you are winning,
you better be in the
right,
finals.
Unless you're in the finals,
right?
it's bad beat for you. Like you're not doing much.
And the Spurs are already doing this, right? So the Spurs are already just not paying people, right? So they got a bunch of young players, and then DeJounte Murray gets good and eligible for contract, he's gone. Jakob Poeltl gets good, he's gone, right? Like they're just like, they'll pay Victor,
they'll probably pay Devin Vassell, who's an extension eligible because he's 22 years old and is looking like a really good 3-and-D.
He's not a rookie max guy, so he'll get an extension, but not a huge he'll get a big extension, probably not the max extension, probably. But they've also managed that, to Henry's point, really well. He hasn't played too much. He rested a lot. They claim injury. I don't really know. Victor for sure is going to get his full max. Sure. But Devin will do a max, and then do an extension, and then maybe he'll qualify for the next max after that if he keeps getting better. Yeah, they're primed to be in a great spot. Even if you're a team like the Denver Nuggets, who are likely, it hasn't happened yet, going to win their first NBA championship this year in franchise history, by the way. I did some back of the napkin, but it's not a napkin. Back of the index card math here on their team. So they're starting 5 next year: Murray, Jokic, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, KCP. Just those 5 guys alone. That puts them at 150 million. So they're already over the salary cap maximum, right? Just to start right there. And I haven't gotten to the 3 guys that come off the bench, right? Now, we mentioned this in our group chat. Bruce Brown has a player option coming up next year. He is no doubt going to be declining that and looking for big money.
Yeah.
Can the Nuggets and Stan Kroenke at all afford to pay him?
Josh Kroenke.
Oh, it's son, not dad? Okay.
Yeah. Stan had to get rid of it when he got the
Rams. Yeah. But let's be real. Stan's probably still.
No, I'm sure Stan has
no.
To do with it.
No, not that this. I don't mean to detract your point, but I have heard Josh is doing a hell of a job.
Kroenkes are among the richest families in the world, obviously, wealthiest families in the world.
Yeah.
So they got to figure out what we're doing there, right? Okay, Jeff Green, unrestricted free agent. You either got to figure out we bring him back at vet minimum or what, right? Something there, or you say we don't think we're going to get the same level of production from him. Is Christian Brown ready to do more of that role? Fine, because he's already locked under his rookie deal. And then player development. This is David's bailiwick now, where you have to come in. You drafted all these guys. Well, are you going to develop them so they play, or what's happening here so they can contribute?
Oh, but you can. To me, this is the good part of what did you say? 18 teams are above the super tax apron, right? Like, if the NBA champions have roster spots, like they'll get players. Like. You know what I mean? And this is the job of being a GM now, right? Is like you just can't get paying your 7th, 8th, 9th guys, right? It just you can't. Like they can't be getting $12 million a year. Like you just have to be able to replace them, right? And so you're like, hey, we love just like this conversation with Chris Paul, where it's like we love you, Chris. Like at the veteran minimum. We don't love you at 30, right? Like you're basically having that conversation with everybody at the end of your roster on every team, right? It's just like. We're looking for a guy. He'll come in here and do this for 6. Yeah. Can you do it for 6? Like, if not,
then you got to go.
There's a bunch of Christian Browns in this.
Well, so that's the interesting thing with the Nuggets, right, David? Do you think they can get someone to be Bruce Brown for $6 million?
I do. I think there's an interesting question here, guys, about the whole infrastructure of the league. Is if you are how willing are you? Aaron Gordon can limit his offensive game, his arsenal. Because he's already gotten paid. But how willing are you going to be to do that before you've gotten paid? Because it seems like the middle class is going to be hard pressed here. It's a debate for another time, I think, because it's a whole show we can devote to it. And maybe will for a free agency coming up, in a couple of weeks. But yeah, Denver can. It helps that they have Jokic.
Oh, yes.
Because he does he does create so much. And Murray. He draws a lot of attention too. Yeah, those 2 guys are pretty. That combination is pretty potent.
It'll really be pretty fascinating to see what ends up transpiring once free agency hits and once trade season happens. David, you and I mentioned on the show that we thought Karl Anthony Towns months ago. We said, wouldn't be surprised if they looking to move on from him, right? And so, a team like Miami, they lose the finals. are they gonna star chase? Or are they gonna go, man, if we just had that one other guy to pair with Jimmy who can get buckets, maybe we're better off, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they got to with Bam. You got to find a shooting 5, and they can suddenly go from being small to tall.
Do they go get Cat?
Jimmy's a 3. But that's why I'm saying this. Bam's a 4, and Cat's the 5.
Except for the fact that Jimmy will probably kill Cat in practice, so that's probably not going to work out.
You're not wrong.
That's not going to work out. Hashtag heat culture and Cat. I don't think those two things marry too well.
Maybe though, but people change, right? Like I mean,
Yep.
Rasheed Wallace on the Pistons was an ardent hard worker who fought and scrapped, right? I just feel like it's like you reach a certain point in your career where it's like, okay, it's real now. Like I had my certain hopes and dreams and they didn't go that way. And so now we're going to like buckle down, right? I feel like, Cat might be at that age. Like it's not out of the question that he'd be amazing.
Right.
With the
No. Right. And Butler knows they need to get size.
No doubt. All right. I wanted to end here, guys, talking about the Saudis. As you know, the PGA.
What team are they on?
well, funny you should ask, David. The Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is renamed as the Public Investment Fund, which whatever. Come on, let's be real. It's Mohammed bin Salman's private piggy bank is essentially what that is. It's something in the tune of $600 billion, give or take a billion here or there. Their golf-backed entity, LIV, and the PGA Tour have merged, including the PGA European Tour, and it is now one golf entity. So, for all intents and purposes, Saudi Arabia owns professional golf. That is what that means. Okay. We've talked for years about expansion and the league. When you talk about adding teams, that the list is already short of the amount of people who can afford to buy an NBA team, right? Just because it costs billions of dollars. And we've long said that the Saudis are probably on the list and, it's likely they're going to take that money. Now, because the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund has private equity holdings, Saudi money is likely already in the NBA as it is because teams accept private equity investment. So the Saudi money is already here, but they can actually purchase and own a team. And we thought for a while, the two expansion cities, Vegas and Seattle, they'd be ripe for one of those. But I was listening to ESPN Bomani Jones's podcast last week, and he brought up something I hadn't thought about. Well, what if the Saudis say, well, yeah, we can sure take an expansion team, but we want to buy a legacy NBA team. And Bo brought up the idea of the Lakers, and he brought the Lakers up specifically because of all the owners, they are the poorest, and I'm using poor in quotes. They're not poor, but they're not multi-billionaires like everybody else.
But their money's from the team.
That is their only business, is the team, whereas everybody else has their billions from somewhere else. If the Public Investment Fund puts a paper offer across the table from Jeannie Buss of $10 billion, I'd be hard-pressed that she can say no to that. Now, the board of governors have to approve it and all that, so they could say no somehow, sure. But if she gets an offer...
Seems hypocritical.
I agree, and I doubt they would. But if she gets it right, Henry, like she can't say no to $10 billion. Like,
no.
Yeah, no.
Well, I think that, to me, there's like, okay, I could talk for a very long time. I would recommend everybody spend some time reading all this series on like Epstein and Saudis and MBS and but one thing is like Michael Milken was a pioneer of finance in ways that are like very influential to this day. And when they had their annual meeting, it was called the Predators Ball because there were this kind of like investors who were not welcome at the most famous banks of the day, right? And there were a lot of narrative around that, who they were, but they were just like a little fringy. They had a lot of money, but they were maybe their reputations were a little sullied, right? And people who worked with Michael Milken are all over sports, owning like everything, right? Tons of NBA owners are from that crucible. And the money came from, it's hard to say exactly where, right? That was the big innovation, was like, we can take this money that's like might get you in trouble and they that wouldn't be good in the newspaper, and we can like buy blue chip companies with it. And sports, this is what sports watching is, right? Like this, and they're flooding sports. This is why team valuations are so high right now, right? Is this dynamic, all this offshore money that's kind of hard to track, right? So what's happening now to me isn't a new bunch of money coming into sports. It's can we just dispense with the charade?
Yeah.
Right? Like, can we just take the money straight from the people that we used to hide? Right? That can we get rid of the like American banker who's the face of it, right? Maybe golf fans will tell us, right?
Yeah.
Like if this is, like is there a line that we don't cross? And I don't think it's nothing to do to me with like the nation that this is from. Right. It's just like this isn't about Saudi Arabia. Yeah. This is about how MBS gained power, right? Like he's a guy in photographs with Jeffrey Epstein. He's a guy who
killed Jamal Khashoggi. Well, not him personally, but
essentially jailed all of his rivals, right? He was. It's not like, I see the stories are like, oh, well, the concern is human rights abuses. It's like, well, that's not exactly my concern. My concern is that like the entire method of MBS taking over the nation was jailing all of his enemies, including his family, right? And people died. Khashoggi is just one of many, right, that are in this terrible litany. And so, does that guy get to have 20,000 people cheer for his team? Does he get to like receive a trophy? Right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
And the guy, Jimmy Dunn is the person who actually like did the transaction.
Piper Sandler, investment banker. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this whole deal with Liv and the PGA Tour started with him on the WhatsApp chat, according to the New York Times today. Yasir likes to arrange a call. He sent to Jimmy. Like that same guy, Jimmy, said to SI's Michael Rosenberg not that long ago about golfers joining the LIV Tour. Like, I don't like it when they say they're growing the game. That's crap. I don't even like it when they say I have to do what's best for my family. I really wonder how many of those guys, the lifestyle that they were living was so horrible that their family needed them to do this. Just say I'm at a point in my career where I want to make 5 times as much money against much weaker competition and play less. Just tell the truth. Don't cover it up with a lot of crap. No, it's like,
no, Jimmy.
The whole sport's covering it up with a lot of crap now.
Seems like you're covering up, Jimmy.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly how I feel. It's like there's a big dumb ball of money out there and you can just get some. It's normal. Everyone's seen Succession, right? People will fight for that money. But if that's all you're doing, like fans are out here like adoring the game, right? Like it's this love affair. And if you're just like in the middle of that and controlling that with the whole game being Succession and just transactions, like you eventually sully this relationship, right, between the public and the game. But golf feels less special today because it's so naked, how transactional it is, right? You're like, is it the greatest love of your life, or is it like a pay date? It feels a little more like the latter.
No, without question. And I think, but that's the point you raise is interesting though, right? Like, let's just follow that theory through that, MBS buys the Lakers. Well, but if he doesn't care about luxury tax aprons and he's paying out the wazoo when they're winning, like, are the 20,000 fans at crypto? Not crypto anymore because it's whatever the new arena is called. Are they mad?
Different sorted scandal.
A whole different set. Are they mad? Are they like, well, we're winning championships. I don't give a shit. Like, I wonder about it all.
All the Premiership teams are dealing with this, right? The fan bases are like, let's see if we like the new oligarch. Like, if we reel off 10 straight wins, then that's a pretty cool dude. And if not, then we always hated that guy.
And I think that's the thing, right? If we win Champions League, yay. If we don't, this guy sucks, right? So
yeah. It's a good time to rethink like what you can cheer for, right? I don't think people with that much money can buy whatever they want, but they can certainly own the Lakers if that's a priority. But TBD if they can buy us cheering.
Correct. David, any thoughts?
Well said. No, everything said was perfect. That was the last thing I was thinking is they can buy the team. They don't necessarily get to buy our support.
Very true.
That's a choice we all got to make as fans.
Very true. All right, guys. A little programming note for you. If the series wraps tonight and the Nuggets win, we will record again tomorrow. If not, we will see you later in the week for Thursday's Game 6. All right, guys. Take care.